Welcome to In Your Element, a podcast that brings you real conversations with higher ed pros who are using Element 451's AI workforce platform to transform the student experience, from recruitment to retention. I'm Daniella Nordin, VP of Platform Enablement at Element 451. I've spent my career helping higher ed institutions harness technology to better engage students, and I'm here to share the stories and strategies that are transforming enrollment.
And I'm Brendan Henkel, AVP of Solutions Engineering here at Element 451. I'm geeking out over all things tech, and I love nothing more than helping teams in higher ed bring bold ideas to life. Whether it's AI, automation, or just rethinking how we engage students, I'm here for the creative sparks and the big aha moments that move us forward. And I can't wait to share our partner stories that are making waves across the globe. If you're looking for practical ideas, proven strategies, and a behind-the-scenes look at how peers are solving big enrollment challenges, this is the podcast for you.
Let's get started. All right, everybody, welcome back to the latest episode of In Your Element. I'm super excited to have today's guest on our show. I believe, Dr. Greene, you stole the show at Engage 2026. For those of you who weren't in the audience, she had a wonderful presentation. But Dr. Greene is here. She is the VP of Advancement and Enrollment at Chowan
That's correct.
University.
Yes, you got it.
You don't often see enrollment and advancement paired together. That's kind of an interesting combination.
It is. It's an evolving role. I came in from 15 years of experience in community college with advancement. And here we're such a small school that those are just two areas that are together to move things forward. So yes, not a normal combination, but it is very much tied together.
But totally tied together from the beginning to the end. We talk about like a full student life cycle and what it means to be engaged as an alum. So I really like the idea of that pairing. And we're here to kind of celebrate too, because Chowan has you know what? I'm not going to steal your news, Dr. Greene. I'm going to let you share, but you're meeting record goals this year.
Yes.
Tell everybody about your increase and what we're celebrating today.
This year, with the new transition, our new president, we've got a great new admissions team in and student success team. We actually had a 13% increase in our new students coming in. So enrollment, yes, yay.
Yeah.
We also had a 4% increase over the last 2 years on retention. So, anybody in higher ed knows that, enrollment's great, but it's always much easier to keep the ones you've got. And we want them to stay and be successful. So some great news all the way around. Our team's really excited and celebrating that.
That's huge. Congratulations. Those are the two numbers that we all work towards. We all work towards those enrollment increase, those retention increase. You mentioned a new president. You mentioned you're sort of new to this role. What are some of the drivers you think behind those numbers?
The administration came in and kind of did an efficiency check and just making sure that we were doing everything from the basic level up. Oftentimes you might get into an institution or an organization where they try and come up with new ideas and maybe they just aren't doing the basics to begin with, and it's hard to build upon if you don't have the foundation. So that's one of the things we did. What do we have? What don't we have? What do we need to work on in order for the processes to be appropriate and effective for our students? And so we really started from the ground up with in particular, our CRM, our admissions team. We have a brand new admissions team that kind of rolled over. It's just been something foundationally. You don't think of it a lot of times as this new big grandiose thing, but it wasn't for us. It was trying to get back to the basics and what should we be doing in order to build those relationships with our students.
I love this because the CRM and the new technology sort of became this catalyst for something I've heard you say before, shifting from silos to synergy.
Yes.
And I think this project sort of brought those teams together and made you all more centralized. Maybe talk a little bit about how that worked out. A lot of people don't take advantage of that opportunity, Dr. Greene. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. So higher ed, as you indicated, are just known for silos, whether through academics and athletics, and then you have the admissions side, a recruiting team, the retention team, and oftentimes unintentionally it just becomes a disjointed mess that no one's working together. And unfortunately, the students get caught in the middle of that. So for us, when we started looking at the basic things that we needed to take advantage of, it was the CRM. We needed something that wasn't too big for us, that we could use, that was appropriate with our admissions team size, but that was also digestible to the other departments, because we had already been told that they were not very amenable to learning something new or doing anything kind of outside of what their jobs were. So we knew what we had to do was win them over, get some buy-in on how it would help them, and not just why we needed them to use it for our end. So that was one of the things that we tackled from the get-go, was how we do that, how we envelope these other departments into what we're doing as a response to how we can help them, and that if they do that, then they're helping us. So it worked really well. It's easy to teach. So our team learned how to use it, and then our director of admissions, Taylor Furlow, did a great job of kind of training the trainers, and we taught them how to use it the way they needed to use it. We set up the dashboards for athletics, or we set up a dashboard for financial aid. We set up particular dashboards for student success. They all don't need to see the same thing. So we determined if we could remove some clutter of things that they didn't need, that it made them want to use the software better and put their information in. And then we're all making decisions with, we'll say, a larger amount of data rather than just our segmented sections.
We talk a lot about the quick wins, and the value that we're bringing, and it's
Yes.
deeply understanding your campus community and knowing what you can bring when it comes to value. One of the other ways you described sort of embracing this new technology is as a quiet force,
Yes.
shaping how we connect and how we create to students, how we connect to students and
Yes.
create.
Yes.
You're just
Yeah.
creating students out of thin air. Yeah.
Yes. We would love to create them. That's okay.
Uh, but maybe talk a little bit, an example of how you've been able to sort of personalize or really connect with those students and make sure you're
Yes.
engaging with them.
Yes. So what we found is that there was a gap in the relationship component. And, I've been in the marketing and higher ed industry for many years, and it's very cyclical. All of a sudden, we switch from paper and letters to emails, emails to text to the next phase. And then the ones who missed out on the paper now want the paper because that's kind of cool and it's vintage, as my daughter says, what's a stamp and how does that get put on an envelope? But what we have to do is adapt, and the CRM let us do that. We can adapt based on the type of student, based on where they're from, what their relationship component is with us or with a potential coach or a person that they had an affinity with because they were an alumnus or a legacy donor. So it just allowed us to kind of create that one-on-one type of relationship that they otherwise don't get. Because they know people are using technology. They know they're sending them mass emails that say the same thing. So when we were able to connect with them on a more personal level, it just makes a bigger difference. They had a lot of things that we can ask them. One of my favorites, and we were talked about how do we incorporate this, is I'm an animal lover, and we talked about, well, how do we incorporate like their pet? So if we know they have a pet, what if we send them a bandana in a package? But we also talk about it. We're so glad that you are coming, and we're sure that, Spot loves that they're going to be a CU Hawk fan. Those are the things that make the difference with the students, because they see that you see them and that they're not just a number or another, another just kind of transcribed code in the system to send them information. So for us, it was very much, although that sounds very simple, why it's that quiet focus, it's, again, just basic for us to build relationships and not be transactional.
I love that. That would have sold me over. If you sent a
Yeah.
bandana for Max, sign me up. I'm coming to that school. Yeah. Do you use some of our AI powered tools too to
Yes.
write those campaigns,
Yes.
to engage with those students? How has that shaped your workload, but also
Right.
being able to reach those students?
Sure. So a couple of different things. When we first started, what we really basically started with our team was making sure that they understood how to use the AI tools and that they weren't scared of them. We wanted them to use those tools to create a common voice across our platform. Some have different writing sets than others, our admissions advisors, or whether it's financial aid or coaches. So they're able to just press a button. We set the tone. They can create it. They also, I love the part where it's like, make that more affirmative with them, or make this a more call to action. We really need them to act. And you think, oh, that's not a big deal. But that takes a lot of time for someone who has lots of different things they're doing and trying to create an email for every person that they're emailing. And then with the campaigns, we were able to build those out based on that same premise. Tell AI what our intent is, who it's going to, and kind of give us a rundown of what would be best. Subject lines, big deal. Students don't open things, especially emails. And so we're running on, and just looked at the other week, we're running on a 30% open rate, which is fantastic.
That's huge. That's amazing.
Yeah, and all of last year, completion for the year, we were at about a 20% open rate for our emails, which is fantastic for campaigns. But we attribute that to having something there to help us build those into a subject line or to a content that is actually something that they want to see and read. And then, of course, we make it personalized. We do things because we're small that other bigger schools can't do. We invite them to special things. We talk about very personal things here. We do videos. We let our president speak to them on things. So those are the areas that I think we can be creative and unique in, and that we can do that because we're small. A lot of other schools aren't going to be able to do that. So we kind of dovetail our flexibility, our smallness with what the AI can do, and it just helps us reach the students in a better way.
Was this a cultural shift, do you think, for Chowan? Oh, it was.
Oh,
Oh, it's like
oh
this
yes,
is
yeah. So when we came here, there was not a lot of documentation on things, not a lot of data kept in spreadsheets. Very kind of not progressive to where they needed to be.
Mhm.
So kind of to switch hats from admissions to advancement, just for an example, the advancement team here had not been doing online giving except for 2 years.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that just kind of give you a premise of where the institution was on that capacity. So just, pick that up, move that over to admissions. It was kind of the same thing. It was basic, but almost too basic. Not enough information, not enough data collection to know what they needed to do to make changes, or pivoting to make it better for the student, or for us to even look at the numbers to be able to decide what should we do differently. This didn't work.
Mm.
And so that was kind of the two big hurdles that we had, not only to help with enrollment, but we had to decipher data that wasn't 100% foolproof, we'll say, that we had to kind of guesstimate at. And so for us, it was a true culture shift, that there were really not a lot of processes in place on how to do the tracking and how to make sure that the data was good data going in. And that way, therefore, we can get good data coming out.
Yeah, I love that. Let's switch gears a little bit to talk about this retention, because we talked about sort of
Yes.
the admissions and the enrollment, and we are celebrating your retention efforts too. The additional layer to that increase, to that 4% increase, is that the students, I think I read, have higher GPAs, or
Yes.
they're more
Yes. I
qualified. Talk
proud.
a little bit about, like, you're seeing success across the board here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Couple of different vehicles or intentionalities that impacted that. One, I think, is that they came in the institution with a better understanding of who we were and what we were, and that they were not coming into an institution that they potentially didn't know what we stood for, or what we may not have been a good match. So we tried to make that very clear, because, yes, we can recruit to everyone, but if they come in, they're not a good match, then we're not going to keep them. So that's one. Two, it was the trifecta of making sure admissions, academics, and athletics all work together,
Mm.
because it's really easy for an athlete to come in and find themselves here. But then if they become injured or don't end up staying on the team, then a lot of times they leave, because that was their identity. Our goal is to make sure that they can identify in another way, whether academically, student life, socially, or as an admission team, we hand the baton with those details, so that our other teams, student success team, can kind of keep them in tuned without it just being the athletic component. And to speak to the students who aren't athletes, they have to find themselves here. What do they identify with that makes them want to stay? So we did lots of things to find out who was leaving and why. Are they athletes? Are they first year students, second year? Are they third? Are they transfer portal students because of the athletic portal? Are they not happy with the food? Did they not like the accommodations that they stayed in? Again, collecting data to make sure that we understood the ins and outs, so that then we can reciprocate and have a solution for what those are. Of course, some of those things are just given. We're not going to be able to stop them. The other thing, aside from that, was that we incorporated in last year a new academic model. That academic model took a shift from being a traditional semester where within that traditional semester, they take 2 sessions of classes and only take 2 classes at one time. So students can really focus on their academics. They're not overloaded. They have 2 faculty members or professors that they meet with on a regular basis, 4 days a week. So they get to know them very well. They don't go to classes on Wednesdays, which we give them as a kind of just a relief day, or we call it a CU Wednesday, where they can study, they can go to tutoring, they can do a club thing that they may want to do. They may just want to take a break and take a reset in the middle of the week. We're a faith-based institution, and on Wednesdays we have campus ministry on Wednesday nights. So it just gives us the ability to help the student be a well-rounded student. And all of those things just compiled together to create retention and success from the student's perspective. You can tell that they are happy and energized, and they belong. And when a student feels like they belong, then they're going to retain.
There are two things that really stand out here, other than the fact that I think we should move the work week to having Wednesday off. I feel like everybody could benefit from. But it's really putting the student first. You know, we talk a lot about at Element, like, oh, you streamline your processes on the back end, but sometimes we lose sight of what that process or that experience looks like for the student. And you all have done an amazing job of really centering around that student and focusing on that experience. And I think that starts from knowing who you are. That's the second point. When I was on campus, we struggled all the time to be like this school or like this school. And it's okay to just
Yep.
be Chowan, you know,
Yes.
and to know and to lean into what makes you different and your differentiators. And it's working. This is
That's right.
like fantastic.
Yes, and from a marketing perspective, I'm from a marketing background. That's the number one thing. You don't falsely advertise to someone that they're never going to stay and retain as a customer. So why as an institution would we do that either?
Dead on. So I know this is going to be actually a pretty funny question because you literally just spent 15 minutes talking about all the stuff that you have changed, all of the initiatives that you've put in, how they're working, but how are you going to keep this momentum going? What do you all have planned for what's coming up for Chuan?
Lots of energy drinks. No.
Yeah. Just
Just
chugging
kidding.
monsters.
Um,
Yeah.
Yes. So we are, again, continuing to make sure we maintain focus on the basics. I equate it. We have a lot of athletes on our campus and a lot of alumni who were athletes who still work for us now. And I equate it to any sport. You've got to know the basics and have that foundation, or therefore everything else will kind of not fall into place. So making sure that we have those basics in place and then building on that. Making sure that our teams understand the basics. It's really easy for me as a vice president or my director of admissions to understand the numbers and the basics and why those are so important. But then it's very easy for the rest of the team not to understand that and not to be able to connect the dots between what they do and what we need to be as a part of the numbers that we're trying to meet. So it's making sure that they're aware and that we keep working on breaking down those silos. They didn't all go away, and they're not going to not try to rebuild. So we have to continue to partner with one another. And it's not us telling them what to do or them telling us what to do. It's an effort. We're all in it for retention. We're all in it for enrollment, and we're all in it for advancement. It's not every single different person's job. It's all of us collectively. And so for us, it's just maintaining that light at the end of the tunnel, that's what our focus is on, knowing that when we do all that, students are successful. For me, that's why I do what I do, so the students are successful. A lot of my stuff is behind the scenes, but at the end of the day, it's there to make sure that the students can come here and be successful, because ultimately they're going to change their lives.
I just love this. It's been so awesome seeing what you all have done with Element, how it's brought the campus together and really, amplified the student experience. So thank you so much for sharing, Dr. Greene. But we do have a podcast tradition, and how we sort of wrap up our podcast. As you know, it's called In Your Element. So we want to know, Dr. Greene, when are you in your element?
Okay, so crazy as it is, I'm in my element when I am being strategic.
Oh,
For me, that drives me. My husband, my children, my coworkers, they all laugh at the fact that everything's a strategy to me. What's the next step? How do we get to point B from point A? And what are all the in-betweens? Because at the end of the day, that just cleans up and helps you know what direction you're going in. So for me, it's that strategic part. And being able to see at the end of the day, as I mentioned just earlier, that student walk across the stage who maybe didn't even think that they could come to college. That's a huge deal. I may not be every day the person who meets and greets with the students, but that's okay. I don't need to be, because I know that what I do and what my team does really impacts what they can do and helps them be successful. And the lives that I've seen in my 15 years transformed because they were able to get an education is huge, and just want to be able to continue to be here at a place that makes that kind of impact with students.
I just you're a strategic enabler, right? Like
Yeah,
that's exactly
love it.
what you're talking about and how you've enabled this campus to do this. I have to ask you too, were you an athlete? You're just
Yes,
yes. I was like, it just I feel like you were a team captain, a coach is what I'm listening to. And that there's a lot of strategy in sports. And
absolutely.
so seeing those like those connections. Yep. Yeah. There everybody go play a sport, a team sport. You learn a
Well, we
lot.
talk about that here. We have so many athletes, but being on a team brings you so much thought and team play and strategy and, positiveness and making sure you're moving in the right direction. Yeah. So it just sticks with you.
It's so true. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Green. We're excited to see another 13% increase, another for no pressure. We'll see where you are, next year. But this has been so helpful, and I just appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
This has been great. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks for listening to In Your Element. This show is a proud member of the Enrollify Network, home to higher ed's largest collection of podcasts. Enrollify is where higher ed goes to grow. So be sure to check out our other podcasts, webinars, video clips, blogs, and more. Visit enrollify.org and subscribe for all the latest details and content drops directly to your inbox. Enrollify is brought to you by Element 451, the digital workforce platform for higher ed. Learn more at element451.com.